Hello, Charter School family. Have you ever wondered who the people are behind the pacificcharters.org emails? Well, so have I. Welcome to the podcast where we meet the teachers, site and program leads, human resource specialists, directors, IT specialists, tutors, and every other member of this PCI family. Pacific Charters is made up of 6 unique schools and growing in California. We have over 3,500 students, so many parent and guardians, educators, and administrators. It takes a village to ensure our students have a personalized pathway to academic success. Let's meet the village. I'm your host, Rebecca Dietrich, and currently the site lead at Rio Valley Charter School, Broadway. Each episode, I will have the opportunity to interview members of the Pacific Charters community. Come along with me as we say, hello, PCI. All right, we're recording. And my son is teaching me how to edit all these things, so that's
Awesome.
pretty All right. So good morning. I'm here with Zach Menzer from Sutter Peak Charter Academy. And we've worked together for the last 6 years for PCI. And I'm going to let Zach do a little introduction for himself.
Good morning. It actually doesn't seem that long ago that 6 years is like a bit of chunk of time, and I remember going through all our training together, and being new
Online,
at
on
Sutter Peak
Zoom.
online. That's right. It was during the pandemic. Well, hello. I am Zach Menzer. I am the assistant director at Sutter Peak Charter Academy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Zach, I'm going to start with just telling us the story of how you got into education and how you became part of the Pacific Charters Institute family. So, how did you become an educator?
Oh, that's a great question, and might take up our entire time.
That's okay.
I always knew that I liked teaching. I actually remember like being a second grade tutor when I was in my fifth grade, like math class, going down to second grade and helping them out. And I always loved the teacher desk and the planning book and things like that. So it was like I always had like a connection to it, or an interest in it. No teachers in my family, whatsoever. And when I finished college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I applied to grad school, a credential program, and law school at the same time. Not sure
Wow.
which direction I
What
wanted to
did you get
go.
your bachelor's degree in?
History. I got a,
History.
a BA
Okay.
in history and a minor in geography. I knew I loved history, so I wasn't and wanted to teach history, and so I was curious about all those things. So applied for all those things. Still wasn't sure, so I ended up getting my master's degree in history. And as part of that program, I got to teach undergraduate level classes
Oh, neat.
and did some pull-out classes as well for some students who needed some extra support with writing. And it kind of like the bug bit me at that point. Like it was very much like a lecture dominated area, but I was like, oh, I really like doing this. So I decided after I got my master's that I wanted to go into teaching for sure. And I wanted to find the quickest way to do that. So I joined an intern program, which allowed you at that time to teach on essentially an emergency credential in a high need school and get your credential at the same time. And so I started teaching in South Central Los Angeles at Fremont High School, which is a school that had 6,000 students.
Oh my gosh.
And it was on a year-round system with 3 different tracks of students. So students were always on for 4 months, off for 2 months, on for four, off for two, and you had it in 3 tracks, so the school wasn't like overcrowded at any one given point.
You didn't really get
Um,
to know everybody's name for too long.
well, no, so what's really interesting about that. I mean, I think that's a big part of my story of how I got into personalized education was, my fifth period. People have probably heard me say this a lot of time, but my fifth period, 10th grade world history class, my first year had 64 students in it.
Wow.
And I would steal chairs and desks from the teachers who didn't do anything to make sure every kid had a seat in my class. Because the way my track worked is the 4 months we were on, you would finish a grade in May and June, and then you would start your new grade July and August, and then you were off for 2 months. That's how like
Wow.
my track of the year round. Yeah, interesting, right?
It's very
So I would
interesting.
be so when I got my roster, I would always go in during break because it was like right before July 4th, and I would take desks from everyone to make sure everyone had. chair. Side note, on the last one I pulled, I was so tired I didn't want to lift up the entire chair and desk, so I dragged it the whole way, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize that it carved a line. These are giant buildings. It carved a line from the teacher's room all the way down the hall
They
right
know
into my
who did
room.
it. They knew who did it. You left a trail.
I left a huge trail.
Oh
But
no.
at that point, what I realized is that none of those kids had classes, who were in my class, had classes with these other kids in their other classes because it was just too big.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our social studies department had 15 plus teachers in it. So, I mean, you were like all spread out. And I saw pretty clearly like some of the benefits of education in terms of like building relationships with people, but also like the systemic failures too. I mean, to have 64 kids in a class with anyone is not a recipe for success. And I realized at that point that we were just seeing it was very easy to be anonymous in that school as a teacher and as a student. Um, and we were so focused on teaching Bloom's taxonomy and teaching the standards that we were not like figuring out who kids were. And so my journey in education really was kind of formed out of like, hey, I have a love, an interest in this, working with other people, to this environment of there's no personalization here, and I actively sought out a school who had done a training at Fremont High School around portfolio development, some kind of culminating projects like an advisory program that was all designed to get to know who kids were and give them an advocate in the school. And so I learned very quickly the power of personalized education and why it's so important and why kind of like that one size fits all approach doesn't work.
Well, and how
Um,
interesting to do that as an intern, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was your teaching experience at that point.
That was my teaching experience. I mean, they gave me, I mean, I did student teaching for, I think they did it like 8 weeks over summer school or something
Wow.
like that. And then I was like thrown in. And the way it was at that point was here's the key to your classroom. You'll get observed 2 or 3 times. Otherwise, we'll see you at retirement if you make it.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay.
So that kind of got me into education, but more specifically, it really got me into personalized, I would say almost alternative types of education. I went from there, I was there for 3 years to a school that I was at for over a decade that was student centered, project based, and was all about differentiating the process, the product, the content, and meeting kids where they were. So
And you didn't
that
have
that was a big
64
draw.
students in a class again, right?
No, that was different. That was a really cool experience. I was an advisor for 15 kids. And by the way, if I'm going off on tangents and you need me to stop talking,
No,
like
this is
just let me know.
great.
So the school that I went to called Wildwood had a very extensive advisory program where we had a group of 15 kids that we were responsible for. It was multi-age, and you stayed with them for 3 years. And you also met with them for an hour each day at the start of every single day. It was embedded
Every
into the
day.
school every single day.
Wow.
So, and we had protocols that we would work on with the kids. Like every Monday, we had an all school meeting and it was connections. So it was like really about building rapport. And the idea behind an advisory was like, here's an adult advocate. We are there in your corner supporting you. You have a problem with your math, history, science class, whatever, come to us first and we're going to help you, resolve that. So there was a curriculum associated with it that was, kind of connection based. We did a consultancy day where it was like a work day and you could meet with your other teachers. We did community involvement through advisory where we'd go out, we worked in a soup kitchen together once every week. And then we did team building as well. So it was like kind of carved out to really make sure. I mean, this school went from 6,000 to 600 kids,
Right.
and free public school to $30,000 a year starting in kindergarten.
Ah, okay. It was a private.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a private school, but they build themselves as a private school with a public purpose. They did a ton of outreach and they got funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to run a whole bunch of workshops for public schools on creating advisory programs, on implementing project-based learning,
Well,
and things
because
like
being
that.
able to connect with an adult like that is what helps students, right? It helps them to understand how to move forward and have someone they can ask questions. And that's wonderful. And
Well,
even
and that's what
probably the community together for the 15 of them to get to know each other across grade levels.
yeah, I mean, it was great for them to, and then build, you also, because it was multi-age, at some point, some kids would age out. And so it gives other kids an opportunity to be a leader in there as well. But I was like the product of anonymity in schools. I was like, Dad, a C is average. That's good. Like, that's
Yeah.
average. Like, what, and no one pushed me. No one knew who I was. I was able to, like, slide under the radar. And it wasn't until I got to college and had an English teacher really take time to sit down with me and wrote, it was actually a comment on a paper that still stood out to me, that I saw someone who took an interest in. I was like, oh man, like the power of relationships right there. I wanted to do well actually for the professor, but also like they were helping me, understand kind of who I was as a learner and what I was doing well and what I needed to do to improve. So
That's very cool.
yeah.
And so then you went from that school at 600. Did you come to PCI straight from there or where?
No, I actually, so we were getting a little tired of LA life, Los Angeles life, like housing prices. We were commuting an hour and a half. We had young kids. My wife grew up in Roseville. Well, she's a military baby, so they were all over the place, but eventually
You've been
settled
to Roseville.
in Roseville.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was kind of always on our mind of like, hey, maybe, there's a possibility there. And so my wife got a job at Kaiser Roseville. I was not ready to leave my assistant director job. I was in my fourth year of that job. And so miraculously, the school said, well, what if we fly you down each week? And I said, great, I'll do that.
Oh my
So for a
gosh.
year, we lived up here. I flew down every either Sunday night or Monday morning. I came back Thursday night, and then worked from home on Friday for the entire year as an assistant director for a high school.
Wow.
Um, I was the assistant director for middle and upper school, but then when I left, they switched it or when I moved up here, they switched it to just high school. So I was doing like all the things an assistant director does, like,
And
but I was working
commuting.
remote one day a week. Yeah. And
Wow.
commuting, which I
Wow.
thought would be great. And then I realized like maybe like a month into it, I was waking up in LA and I was like, I don't remember where I was. Like I couldn't tell if I was back in Sacramento or back here. And it was like an awful feeling. Plus being
Yeah.
away from family and kids.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
yeah. So that happened. I did that for a year and I tried to find another private school up here. And so I actually became the principal of the Sacramento Waldorf School, which is a early kindergarten through high school program.
Yeah.
And I
It's
was the
the
lower
public
school
one, right?
administrator.
Is
No,
it
no, no. I was
public?
at the
It's
private
a
one.
private one.
Not,
Okay.
yeah.
Because
So
Sacramento is one of the only places that has a public Waldorf. So I just didn't know
yeah, which is
which one.
fascinating.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is.
So, I mean, it was a beautiful campus, beautiful school, like total cultural mismatch. I love alternative forms of like education, but in order to be a successful Waldorf teacher or administrator, you really need to be like you need to go through Waldorf and go through training. It is very different. And so I did that for a little over a year. And my wife then got sick with breast cancer. She's doing fine. So I took a year off at that point.
Okay.
I was like, the administration jobs have become way less about connecting with students and much more about kind of the legal, stuff. And not, at least in that position, wasn't so like people oriented. And I was like, I really miss working with kids. So I took a year off, started another master's program in educational
Because we
technology
can't get
and
away
teacher
from
leadership.
becoming
Yeah.
educated, right? Lifetime learners.
um, and I was like, you know what? I really want to go back to being a teacher leader. Like I became a teacher leader my second year teaching. I became I co-authored a small learning community
Mhm.
at Fremont High School. So we operated as a school within a school, and I was the lead teacher for that in my second year. So I never really I didn't really have official training like to be a lead teacher.
You just
I was
thought
like, I
this
really
needed
want
to
to go back.
happen. Yeah.
Yes. So I wanted to find a school where I could go back and work with kids. And I called Heather Marshall, who is someone who I worked with in the past at a different charter school doing some professional development. And we met at Starbucks, and I guess it was Woodland. And
Uh-huh.
and we sat down. I just was connecting with her because I mean we knew each other in LA, and so I was like, just reached out. I'm up here now, and she's like, so tell me what your work schedule is like. Or she was like, dove right into it. She's like, oh, like what can we do
Yeah.
to get you here? So and that's kind of what brought me to PCI. She told me about, Sutter Peak, who Sutter Peak was. I have zero homeschool experience, but I have extensive experience in personalized education. And
Right.
that is something that's very meaningful to me. So that opportunity to really work with families and kids, um, that was like, oh, yes, I would love to do that. So did that, moved into a teacher leader role with you. And now I am 6 years later like you moved
Back
it back
into
into it.
back into administration.
Yeah, actually the assistant director role out of all my administrative like positions, like that was my favorite position because like I could go and understand this in brick and mortar schools, but like I could go from like slinging hot dogs with student council,
Right.
trying to raise money to being in a discipline meeting with a kid to supporting a teacher planning a unit, to high-fiving kids walking down the hall. Like to me, that's like it's got all the best elements in it.
Right. Well, and I
Yeah.
think at PCI especially, you're still going to have that student connection. It's so
Yeah.
personalized that you are going to have the student connection and the teacher connection and all of it in one.
Yeah.
How neat.
That's why I put a lot of I put a lot of weight in the field trips, the family events that we do, because that's a good opportunity for me to connect with families. So I'm really hoping in this role that not only, I mean, I'm going to continue to do field trips and attend them, but also attend the other events as well, because that's where you get to know everyone.
Right. In the
So then when
non-site
they
base,
do,
that's where they are, right? That's where you get
right.
everybody all at once, unless you're going to find
And
teachers around to all their meetings.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And, then when they do come across your desk, because there is an issue or something like that, at least you know them. Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges, in this role, is you don't know everyone. So sometimes the first time you're meeting them is a warning letter.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. Keep making the
Yeah.
connections. You've had such a neat journey from huge school to small school, and now all of PCI, I think, could be contained in your first experience in like
Yeah.
how the population of us, right?
Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
that first experience. How neat.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to move on to my next question, which is about
Please.
the mission of PCI and your
Yes.
role. And I know you're just stepping into your role currently, but you can answer it based on your experience so far or what you see this role doing. So, the mission of PCI is that it empowers students to take charge of their education by connecting their individual needs and interests to a rigorous learning plan, thus creating self-motivated, responsible citizens, critical problem solvers, and lifelong learners. How do you see your role adding to this mission? And how does the mission fit into your own philosophy in education? And I think you've done a little bit of that already, so you can kind of add to it a
Well,
little.
I'm going to cut off the entire end of our mission statement only because I chuckle a little bit at mission statements in general,
Yes.
not specific to ours, but every single one mentions like an informed citizen, responsible, ethical, 21st century skills, like lifelong learners. Like it's almost like necessary that you put that in your mission. But when I hear you read it, like what it boiled down to for me is empowering students to be successful through personalized learning. I feel like those are the two things that like kind of stand out to me. And you do that through relationships, through data-driven, discussions, through reflection, through celebrating, successes and failures, having honest conversations. But to me, I see like my role is, I guess, as an administrator, I've always thought this is going to sound bad, but I'm going to say it. As an administrator, I always wanted teachers to think about what's best for kids. And as an administrator, I wanted to think about what's best for teachers. And
Mhm.
not, I don't want that to come across like I know it's best for teachers because
No.
everyone's different. But like, I want my work to free up the time and the energy for the teachers to do their amazing work with kids. Like, I am in awe of teachers and the amazing work that they do. I'm always like comparing myself. I'm like, oh, I could never do that. Like these people are amazing. Um, and so I think, what can I do to free up those barriers or build bridges or whatever it is for teachers to do their work with kids? So that's how I see my role in supporting that. I am fortunate that I think in my role, I have the ability to create, to refine, to reinforce different systems, procedures, structures that hopefully are all geared towards making the job of the teacher easier because it's a tough job. And I think it's tougher than even a, traditional teacher to some degree because you almost have to be a generalist in our environment.
Yes.
You have to support kids where they are. You're not just focused on teaching content and skills for a specific class. You have to be familiar with so many different programs and platforms and things like that. So, if I can remove some of those barriers, then to me, that's how I would support the mission of the
Yeah.
school, allowing teachers to do
You
that.
get to go from individualized support for individual students to individualized support for individual teachers so that they can continue to pass that along.
Absolutely.
I
So
love that.
that's yeah, I mean that's very much how I see my job and that's how I saw my job as like an administrator before, so I'm excited to do that as well. I still need to figure out how to build those connections with students. So I had student council as an administrator before, which is a great way to keep your pulse on like student culture and community. So I'm going to be looking for ways to
Right. Maybe
outside of
you need
field
a little
trips
bit
and
of a
events.
student advisory board that you start building,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
So
so I'm
much
looking forward to doing
potential.
that. One step at a time, though.
One step at a time. I love it. So much potential.
Yeah,
Um, I'm going to add one more question about your
sure.
own school experience before I go on to some of these other ones. But you said a little bit in your description of your college experience that the first teacher you really saw that connection with was an English teacher in college. What did your elementary and high school years look like? Were you in a public traditional school?
I was
Where?
picking my nose. Like that's I was a disaster as a student. I lost the items to my projects. I would forget my backpack at school. I would find a moldy sandwich in a locker like bag. I just it was not I don't think I knew how to be a student. And it wasn't until I got to college that I really learned like how to be a student. And so there was an expectation of my family. It was never like forcefully said, but like I knew I was going to college. And like fortunately, lived in an environment and with parents that I knew that was going to be a reality. But I mean, I remember doing my PSAT and literally like filling in bubbles to
Hmm.
in the shape of mountains.
Oh,
Like
nice.
I was bored. I mean, I could not like so I mean, that was throughout my entire high school, elementary, career. I wouldn't say it was like a negative experience. Like I was a happy kid,
Right.
but I
And
was
you were
just
able
never
to get away with
studious.
that too, right? Just to like
Yes.
fade into the background, watch them.
Yeah. Because I wasn't failing classes or anything.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm gonna leave that story out. Okay. It made me think of something. But yeah, I mean, I've never failed like class. I was an average, student, and like no one really pushed me or anything, and it was what it was. But when I got to college, I remember an English teacher wrote on a paper. I still have it somewhere. There's two comments that English teachers made to me, one in grad school, one in undergrad, that stayed with me for a long time. But he said, Zach, you are the epitome of a perfect student, maybe even the perfect student.
Oh, and you
And I
went,
was like,
what?
whoa, yeah. I was like, whoa, like, what is that? He's like, you sought out, feedback. You asked me for support along the way. And I kind of learned at that point that it wasn't just about like the content, but it was about the process as well and putting in the appropriate amount of effort and like committing yourself to study to a class. I just didn't have an understanding of what that was, and I think maybe it felt good too to get that like positive feedback
Yeah, absolutely.
from a teacher and recognize me. And so it was like from that point on, honestly, I got straight A's like I think the rest of the way out.
Well, because it
um
inspired you to be a good student,
Totally
right? You
inspired
wanted to
me.
keep up that
Yeah.
reputation that you began.
Totally inspired me. And the other
Yeah.
comment, by the way, was in grad school, I had another professor who helped me with my writing, like take it to the, like, I think the next level in grad school. But his comment was, Zach, your prose is gelatinous and lacks pop and clarity. And I remember like there was other
The
stuff in there, but that was like
bluntness.
verbatim what he said. And he went over with me on paper, sentence for sentence, and talked to me about the difference between active and passive
That is
voice.
a good writing
And
teacher.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
was,
love
I
it.
mean, he was a history teacher, he was a grad
Yeah,
school history teacher.
it's
But
good
again, took
writing.
an interest, and you could see the benefit from that relationship, like kind of how it pays off.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
that side tangent there. Um,
Yeah.
I have the challenging and rewarding parts of your role. How do you see the like what are the most challenging parts of your role this year? And what are you most excited about?
Well, I don't know what I don't know yet.
Hmm.
So I don't know what the challenges will be now versus if you ask me in a couple of weeks versus,
Yes.
December, June. I think the biggest challenge of being a teacher leader, and I think it's going to be the same. I brought this up briefly, but frequently when something goes wonky, is when it's the first time that I meet a family. And so if you're having to send a warning letter to a family, like you are almost 80% of the time met with, what, who is this? Who are you? Like, why are you,
Right.
and I get it. Like here's an unknown, name kind of reaching out. So I think that's going to continue to be the biggest challenge is like getting to know families so that you can lessen that. And also I've moved towards, if I'm going to be sending or when I send warning letters, I'm going to start it with a phone call. I think our process has been like, okay, teacher writes the warning letter and we email it, and I want to do make that process easy for teachers, so that they can hold their families accountable in an appropriate way. But I think I also need to take the time to reach out to the family first, as a way of kind of over. That's been the biggest challenge. That's when I feel like people butt heads the most because like it's a consequence,
Yeah.
they don't know that person. So like I think sometimes that can bring out the worst in people.
Well, and I don't
um
know about you, but I feel the last 6 years, like the communication through technology has changed so much, and that I even have a hard time checking my personal email and responding to anything regularly. And maybe that's just a me thing, but I think that a lot of times those emails get lost, and
mhm.
maybe some of the communication does just need to be a phone call.
Yeah.
And that helps you with that personalized connection to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that paid off in a couple of tricky situations that we've had over the last couple of years, just in my lead teacher role.
Mhm.
It started off with emails. Just it was kind of necessary to document some things, but ultimately, when we were able to sit down, and I was able to say to the parent, like, or any parent, "Hey, we've had a lot of communication in email, but I've never met your child. So can we just start by you telling me who they are? Like, what do they like
Yeah,
to do?"
right.
And I feel like that goes such a long way, and learning about who the kids are, but also diffusing what can be heated
Yeah.
conversation.
I think the ways that we start IEPs is the way that we should start any meeting, whether it's a warning
Yeah,
letter or anything else. It's like, tell me all the strengths of your kid
yeah,
and tell me where
yeah,
they're struggling. Like, let's get to know a little bit more about them. And
yeah,
also, like, what do you, as the parent, take pride in this
yeah.
you're excited about for them?
It's interesting you said that because yes, I totally agree with you. But the other thing that they also do at IEPs is they
Mhm.
say, did you get the procedural safeguards? So there's
Yes,
almost like a set of norms
there's
going into the
norms. I love
dialogue,
it.
or like, giving the parent like, hey, they have some agency in this. Like, that's interesting as well.
Yeah, maybe we need to
Yeah.
start everything
Let's
with
do
that.
that. Did you get your procedural
Yeah.
safeguards before we have this meeting about you missing a
Have
class?
you read
Yes.
your parent handbook? Because have it out. I love it.
Awesome. What was the other
Um,
question? Was what was the most
what's the most
rewarding?
rewarding part? And I think maybe I can guess, but you say, what's your most
Oh
rewarding?
no, now you need to say. I'm curious what
Well,
your
now
what
I'm
your guess
going to
is.
just guess that it's going to be meeting all those families at the events and
Yes.
out and seeing them, and maybe also seeing the teachers feel a little bit more successful where they've maybe struggled.
Yeah, I would say that I got a photo last year after a field trip to the California Air and Space
Hmm.
Museum, or Aerospace Museum, and it was a family that I don't have. I've communicated with briefly via texting, whatever, and they sent me a video in their car while they were driving, mind you, in a van,
That's
and
how
they
you do
said,
it now.
"Thank you, Mr. Zach, for like a cool field trip," and. Um, like obviously it felt good to get that, but those
Yeah.
kids had a really good time. They learned something, new and different, and we're able to give them that experience. Like that was super rewarding. And then I've had a couple incidents this year. I don't know, not incidents, but in working with new teachers where and one specific teacher that stands out. Um, I think I can say this. You know, we're all different in our level of comfort and comfortability, comfortness of
Uh-huh.
having difficult conversations.
Yeah.
And some of us are a little bit scared of conflict. Like that's, I think, part of human nature, to some degree. And so I was helping a teacher along the way. And at some point, like middle of the year, she needed to have a difficult conversation with someone. And she was asking me about it and asking if I could be there. And she's like, you know what? No, I need to be able to do this.
Right.
And went and had that conversation with, yeah, with a parent. And to
And
me, that
she
was like, oh,
felt
that's it.
empowered to do it, right?
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
good.
Yeah. So that was very rewarding as well.
Good.
Yeah.
And it is something we all struggle with conversations. And I think especially if you've come out of a classroom where maybe the only conversations you have with parents are negative, or you never have conversations with parents, you just don't
Right.
have that skill to
Right.
come to Sutter Peak or any of the PCI schools where we're meeting one-on-one with families regularly. It's a big shift.
Yeah, it really is. I'm not going to lie. The other reward is Sutter Peak swag.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, that's like pretty amazing.
I know. I want to
I,
know what's the plan this year. Do you know? Can you give us insight?
I do. I mean, there's a new really cool bag
Oh,
that's a backpack converted that you can convert into a messenger.
oh, cool.
And yeah, I know, super cool. A new design on shirts with a different color that's not going to be royal blue. It's going to be navy, which I just don't love how royal blue looks on me. I love Sutter Peak. I look awful in blue, green, and yellow.
Which is funny because you're a Dodgers guy, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I'm a Dodgers guy. Thank you for yes,
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
I'll
Yeah.
just throw
But
you
it's
under the
still
bus
blue
right
looks
there.
awful on me. Yeah.
That's funny.
Um yeah, last year we actually got like pull carts, which was super cool and really helpful because as you know,
Yeah.
we carry a lot of stuff from place to place and get heavy.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
I like
so
it. Yeah, I saw those. They're like the foldable wagons, right?
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah,
brilliant. I love
yeah,
it. I know I
yeah.
want to, that's what I should add to my list of questions. It was like, what's the swag for your school this year? So we can all share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's see. I have a question on here of if you could give one piece of advice to a student, and let's just say a Sutter Peak student coming in brand new this year, what would your piece of advice be?
I would say to get involved, to set a goal, and to get involved in at least one or two community events each semester.
Okay, set a goal.
Um, yeah, because I think it can be somewhat isolating, and so those connections aren't always just presented, for you that you have access to every single day because you're at home. But I found that I get excited when I see other Sutter Peak kids become friends with each other because we don't have that common like lunch experience that get involved in at least one or two community events, whether it's going to a field trip, going to our version of like a fun Friday,
Mhm.
or something along
Birthdays or
those
whatever it
lines.
is.
Yeah, I would do that. And then was the other part of that a teacher or just a student?
I asked, that was my next question, is a
Oh, okay.
colleague. I just said colleague, so it could be a teacher,
Okay.
it could be an admin, whoever you'd like. What piece of advice would you give?
Especially if you're new, but just in general, to take a breath. Because as Heather would always remind me, it will get done. Um, and I think the way that our job works is that one task can turn into 20 different tasks.
Mhm.
And because we're so personalized, everyone's kind of in a different place. And so you could be having from one conversation to the next, it could be wildly different needs and follow up, but it will get done. And I think that if you take a breath, and even if you're stressed out and say, okay, I'm just not going to deal with that right now, I'm going to, do one other thing, I think is perhaps some good advice.
Right. Take a breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember early on in our careers at Sutter Peak, somebody had said to me, the early bird never catches the worm here. And I think that
Yeah.
goes along with your breath of just like, just wait because they're
Yeah.
making changes. And as much organization as you want to do as a teacher or an educator moving into the next year, it might be just sideswiped into other things. So just wait.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a trade-off too. One of the things that helped me is I love being in a classroom. I miss, certain aspects of, of that. But I also feel very fortunate. Like right now, I'm having a conversation with you, and like I'm at my house.
Right. There you go.
I am able to pick up my kiddo from school. I think it's like, honoring like those like pieces that maybe, or not honoring, I don't know, that's ridiculous, but like being aware of, wow, I actually do have the flexibility to do this, or, hey, it's paperwork. I'm just going to do that later. I don't want to, but like after my kids go to sleep, whatever it is, that's how you want to like balance your day. I think like being able to just appreciate and recognize like, oh, you're not confined to 7:30 to 3:30 in your classroom.
Right.
I think that's also potentially good advice.
A little bit of flexibility. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Outside of school, you
Yes.
talked about your family a little bit. What do you enjoy doing outside of school?
Baking.
Uh-huh.
I've been baking a lot and eating too much of my baked goods this summer. I love trying to figure out how to perfect recipes. Like that's really big for me.
Well, thought I saw
Um,
donuts on your Instagram
yeah,
recently.
I did.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to make donuts. I've been making bagels all summer,
Nice.
and trying to perfect that. Apparently, the next level of bagels is you boil them in lye,
Ooh,
which
what does
is
that
like
do?
it makes it like super shiny on the outside. Like authentic bagels are hand rolled and dipped in lye and boiled in lye, but lye is like poisonous. I mean,
Yeah,
so I haven't gone that far yet, but I've wanted to make donuts, and so I finally like got up the courage, whatever, to make them. I was like pretty happy with how they came out.
nice.
So I like to bake. I love to cook for my family. And so that's something else I do. I cook dinner for my family every night. I mean, 5 out of 7 nights, whatever it
Sure.
is.
Yeah.
That's something that I think about when times are stressful. Like I get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, you're not flying to
You
LA
know,
anymore,
I'm
so
not flying to LA.
good. Yeah.
And then I love being with my family. Like I don't know if that's a hobby, but we do a lot of things together as a family, whether it's watching TV, swimming, going to Nevada City, whatever it is, we do that a lot, and baseball and supporting my younger kids' baseball. So
Nice.
yeah.
Very. All right, I am down to the quick round questions at the
Okay, let's
bottom.
hear it.
So, what are you reading right now?
I am reading The Anxious Child.
Oh, I finished it. We should talk next week. Is it? I will be so interested to hear what you have to say
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I have
yeah.
a
I
lot.
got I got an updated version. I
Okay.
had the original one from the library, but then I downloaded one on my iPad that had some more references to, I don't know if that one you had, but to the pandemic and stuff. So I thought it was like,
Yes.
yeah, okay, okay. So
Okay.
yeah, that's what I'm reading.
What you're reading. Okay. Coffee, tea, or an energy drink?
I love energy drinks. I'm trying to avoid those because my kids see me drink
Yeah,
that.
right. And you're like, you can't have
Um,
that.
like the worst one that I have, and I love it because I don't like carbonated drinks in the morning. So my favorite energy drink is actually it's called Monster Rehab,
Yeah.
which is just like I can't go walking around with my kids like drinking Rehab like energy drink, but
Or
it's tea and
marketing.
lemonade.
Yeah.
It's tea and lemonade, so and it's not carbonated, so I do love that. But I'm not a coffee drinker, so when I'm not drinking energy drinks, which is most of the time, I drink tea.
Okay.
And I
Awesome.
like iced tea.
Yeah.
I like cold drinks.
Okay.
And I do have a
Ocean.
picture of you,
I know
Rebecca,
you do. I knew you were going to say it.
holding a
I'm a
Starbucks
coffee
cup.
snob. I know. I think of it every time I'm at a conference and I'm like, Zach would come and take a blackmail picture of me drinking Starbucks right now.
Where
So,
was that? Was that at CCSA?
yeah, I think maybe CCSA.
Yeah.
Somewhere that did not have a good coffee shop nearby. For
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
listeners on here, just FYI, I don't drink Starbucks generally. Don't get me a card.
That's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
But
Okay, sorry, quick round. Sorry, I'm
it's
having too
perfect.
much.
Yeah, I think of that every time I'm at a conference because I have to find different coffee. Um, all right, ocean or forest? Where would you be?
Forest.
Okay.
Forest.
Pine trees or eucalyptus?
Okay, so I love the smell of eucalyptus, but I love the mountains, so I'm gonna go with pine.
Okay, okay. Chocolate or sour candies?
Yes.
That's a good answer. Text or a phone call? Where are you in this generation?
I don't know. I guess phone call.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess but I don't know. Is that true to who I am? I mean, I text a lot. Um, but I much prefer connecting with people, and
Okay.
it's harder to do via text.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Which is your favorite season?
Winter.
Winter?
Although moving up here, it's starting to like it's cold up here compared to Southern California, and
Oh, in the
I
winter. I
in the
was like,
winter. So
not
I'm
right
like
now.
now, no, 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 not right now. But I'm like I'm starting to get uncomfortable with it being so cold.
Okay.
So, but I like the winter.
Okay.
I like the rainy seasons.
And then I've got salty or sweet.
I alternate.
Okay. See, that goes with the chocolate and sour too, right? You like
I
all
went and saw
flavors.
F1 the movie this weekend
Okay.
and had popcorn and peanut M&Ms. It was like a
Oh,
perfect like
that's a
combination.
good mix. That's a oh my
The day
goodness.
after I made donuts.
It's really good we don't live near each other because I'd be
Yeah,
like, what's next do you have?
yeah, yeah. I that's my dream is like not dream, but like I see you doing the coffee cart, or I don't know if
Yeah.
you're still like doing that, but I would love to have some kind of pop-up bakery at a farmer's market on the
Oh,
weekend,
sure.
you know? Yeah.
I think it's fun sometimes. And then when you're like, I really want to make this happen, it makes it harder.
Yeah. I mean, that's the part where I've stopped.
Right, right. So, well, Zach, thank you for being on a podcast with me. And anything you want to leave the PCI community with as we finish this conversation? I don't know.
No, I'm so interested. I started listening to the other one with Rebecca Leader and name
And
change.
Sharon, yes.
Yeah, and Sharon. So I'm really interested in hearing some of the other ones as well and seeing like how it can connect people.
Yeah,
Um,
I hope it
yeah,
does. So that's my
yeah,
goal.
yeah. And I look forward to seeing people on the 4th.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yeah,
August
coming
4th.
up. So
We're gonna do
yeah.
it.
And if there's anything that you missed within this and you need me to repeat something, let me know. Or if
No.
you're like, Zach, that wasn't very good, we need to reshoot the whole thing,
Perfect.
let me know.
Thank you again for joining me for Hello PCI, our second episode today with Zachary Menzer from Sutter Peak Charter Academy. It is a joy to get to know each and every one of our PCI staff members as we begin this journey of podcasting. Interviews with each one of you will look different, and I'm so excited to get to know more and more of our Pacific Charter School community. If you are interested in being on this podcast or interested in meeting some of our community, email me at rebecca.dietrich@pacificcharters.org. I look forward to hearing from you.